You are looking at pictures of George Orwell. And George Orwell is somebody that you need to know about when we start talking about security and privacy, because George Orwell famously wrote a book called 1984. And in 1984, this book, he kind of like was talking about how Big Brother is watching you and how it was sort of a totalitarian state where people had a loss of freedom because the government was just monitoring everybody and wanting to, control people and make sure that there weren't any people who are going contrary to the aims of what the people in power wanted. And so this was kind of what the book 1984 was about. And when we talk about security and privacy, it's important to sort of think about how humans interact and relate with each other. Because if you look at the history of humanity, there have been all kinds of instances where humans have not acted very well towards each other. And I think we reviewed this earlier in the course, or previewed it earlier in the course, or touched on it earlier in the course, where I mentioned that, like, hey, should we be concerned if people have information about us? Should we be concerned, right? We're talking about privacy and security. Should we be concerned if we do not have privacy? Is that something we should be concerned about? And so one school of thought says, hey, my life's an open book and I'm not doing anything wrong and I don't care if people take a look because I'm living the way I should be living. I live straight up with integrity and I ain't doing nothing wrong. And hell yeah, we should be having the government watch everybody, because if they're watching everybody, then the people who is doing things wrong, we could go bust them. Right? I don't know why I go into a hillbilly accent when I do that. But right, so that's one of the things, right? So there's this trade-off between privacy and security. I could give you a lot of security, but I got to pull away all of your privacy. Or I could give you a lot of privacy, but I got to pull away a lot of security. And so finding this trade-off between privacy and security is important. How does that trade-off work? So if there was zero privacy, we would have really good security. So imagine what that world might look like with zero privacy and really good security. Everybody would have a device implanted into their body which tracks them at all times, which records all of their conversations. And so at any given time in America or whatever country we happen to be in, right, whichever organization is doing this, if we had that type of control where we knew where everybody in America was at every time and we recorded every single one of their conversations and we could see whatever they were seeing, if all that information was being captured, we would have zero privacy, right? Everything I said, everything I saw, everywhere I went, it would be known. So I'd have zero privacy. However, we'd have really high security because, how could you rob a bank, right? Like the government knows, like if a bank did get robbed, they'd just be like, well, let's see who was there. Let's see who was there when the bank got robbed. Oh, there was 4 people. Let's access their records and see what they were looking at, see what was said. And so we would have high level of security and no privacy. And you can imagine maybe in that scenario, this is just a scenario, in that scenario, there might be checkpoints. And if you went through a checkpoint and you didn't have your little ID device, which identified you and said, hey, this is, broadcasting who I am, what I'm doing, where I am, all that stuff, then you would be abducted. So that'd be really low privacy and really high security. On the other side, we could have lower security and higher privacy. And the higher privacy is we don't get to know anything about anybody. No records can be stored about anyone. And, that's it. So we know nothing about anybody. And so this is kind of like going back to America pre-computers, right? Just imagine what America is like pre-computers. And it wasn't possible to store. It was much more difficult, actually, to store a lot of information about a lot of people. So during the 1960s, when they had social protests about the Vietnam War, the FBI would send out agents to take pictures at protests of the protesters, and they would create file folders on who were sort of revolutionary people. And they would, they were a little concerned about socialism because there was still that entire communism, socialism, Russia thing going on, and so they were very concerned about socialism, communism, And so they would have agents go undercover and join the hippies, right, and figure out who are the leaders of these social protest movements. And so it was harder to gather information about people. And we do want to know, right? We do want to know if people are going to be doing bad stuff. So, if there are people who are going to act aggressively against our organization, our group of people, right? As a tribe, however you define that tribe, as a tribe of individuals and humans, if we're concerned about being harmed by another tribe, we would like to know about that. We would like to know if somebody's going to come attack us. And so to do that, we need to gather more information. So if we had, if we had absolute privacy, we wouldn't be able to gather any information about anybody, and we would have less security. So there's this trade-off between privacy and security. And the question I just posed was, should we be concerned if we're losing our information? Should we be concerned that we don't have privacy, or that we have less privacy? Should that be a concern? And I will forward for your consideration, just to reflect back upon history, because the history of humanity is not one where humans have treated their fellow humans kindly. Certainly there's many instances of humans acting with kindness and consideration and compassion towards one another, but there's also plenty of instances where humans acted horribly towards each other. And so, Nazi Germany, World War II is just one of many examples of ethnic cleansing and genocide, which humans have decided was a good idea and gone about doing. And in World War II, in the late 30s, like in the late 30s in Germany, it would have been bad news for you if you were Jewish. It was bad news for you if you were Jewish. And so that would be something you would be concerned about, like 1939, 1940, 1941, 1942. If you're in Germany, right, you wouldn't want people to know you were Jewish if you were Jewish. You'd want that fact to be private. You would want a lot of privacy. I don't want people to, because otherwise you're going to get put onto a cattle car and shipped off to a concentration camp, and bad things would happen to you. And so actually, if you look at Wikipedia and go to genocides wiki, genocides in history, Wikipedia, genocide. Yeah, so let's check that out, right? There's just all kinds of instances, right? So Rwandan genocide, skulls of victims. And then there was Pol Pot, I believe his name was, in Cambodia, right? And they had the killing fields. And there was, World War II in Nazi Germany trying to eradicate the Jewish people. And then there was Argentina, Haiti, Mexico, Peru, even the United States of America. When we came over here, hey, you're a Native American, guess what? We've got a blanket for you. And that blanket is laced with, I think it was smallpox, but it's basically germ warfare and genocide. And the people who discovered America, Columbus, came over here and killed all the people who are already here, who had already lived here and discovered this land. And they did it with germ warfare by giving them blankets, which would kill them. And so the history of humanity just has a bunch of instances of horrible genocide, and you can see some of the pictures over there. So should we be concerned if people have information about us, even in this country, right? Like in the 50s, they had something called McCarthyism. Wiki, however you spell it. McCarthyism Wikipedia, and 1950 to 1956. Is this tomorrow America under communism? Right? They're freaked out about communism, and so they had this big inquisition where if you had any socialist, like socialist being social, right? That's where socialists come from. Social, where you have more of a social, communist, socialist attitude towards something, which in some ways is like, let's take care of all our people and have more equitability. So socialism is not this evil thing. It was just poorly executed. Socialism is actually, I think, more idealistic and better than many of the different systems we have around. This idea that we should all be equal, and it's inherently flawed, by the way. We should all have more equality in society. But so anyhow, they had this big concern in the 50s, 50 to 56, called McCarthyism, where there was this inquisition. So if you had socialist leanings or communist leanings, this was not the land of the free. This was not the land of the free where you could say what you want, right? Because if you said the wrong things, you might be brought up in front of a panel which would ask you to explain yourself. And then the ramifications of that were never really too horrible, but they were things like blacklists, right? Where you ended up on a blacklist, and that could have serious repercussions for your career, and you could lose your job and things like that. So that was one instance, and then there was also in American history. That's one instance of persecution for what you believe or kind of your personal information. Japanese concentration camps, right? And then there was also Japanese American internment during World War II. So if you're Japanese, in America during World War II, you got packed up and you got shipped off to concentration camps, right? And so here are the locations of some of the concentration camps. And granted, we didn't, put these people we didn't gas them and put them into ovens, but we took away their property. And what I've heard is we never gave their property back. So maybe there are instances where we did, but overall, what I've heard about this is they never got their property back. And so one of those Japanese concentration camps was actually right here in Fresno. And so we come back to this issue of privacy and security. And can we trust our fellow man to know things about us? Because, if I was Jewish, Japanese, Native American combination, and, if I was in America at the wrong time, Jewish, Japanese, Native American, socialist, right? If I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, I would have been bundled up and packed away and shipped off. And so humans just have this history of treating each other poorly. And so that's a little bit of a concern. Who has information about you, right? Your privacy. Who has information about you and how might it be used? That's concern at a high level. There's also concern at a lower level, which would be, right? Like you put pictures of yourself on Facebook doing something incredibly stupid, completely drunk out of your mind, saying something dumb on YouTube. You're in your underwear running around a party, just completely off your head. And, and then that video's on YouTube and it's there forever and hundreds of millions of people watch it. And then for the rest of your life, that follows you around. And there's all kinds of instances where people have had things come out about them and then for the rest of their lives, it impacts them. So, like there's the Star Wars kid, right? Who is one kid who a video came out about him and it's followed him for all of his life. And so privacy and security at a lower level, just how does it impact us socially and emotionally is another concern. So we're talking about privacy and security. And to really understand this topic, one of the things you absolutely need to know about is this guy, George Orwell, who wrote this book, 1984. And in the book, he had this premise that Big Brother is watching you. And indeed, it does seem as if Big Brother is watching us now, because there was this other guy called Edward Snowden. Well, I actually got his picture right here. There's this other guy called Edward Snowden right here, who recently was working for the government, and he grabbed a whole bunch of documents about how the government, the United States government, is monitoring not only Americans, but everybody all over the world, and has this massive monitoring program going on. And he grabbed a whole bunch of those documents and he ran. He grabbed them and he ran, right? He went to Hong Kong first and then he went to Russia. And for many weeks, he was in the Russian, I think, Moscow airport. And he wasn't able to get asylum in any country. And finally, Russia granted him asylum. And he's leaked some information about how much the government is spying on Americans and people around the world. And so this poster here really kind of speaks to the hypocrisy of, these programs, because, this poster says they didn't like it when he violated their privacy, right? And up here's the National Security Agency, who is in charge of gathering information about everybody in the world, the NSA, National Security Agency. And they didn't like it when he violated their privacy. So when Edward Snowden violated their privacy, these people didn't like it, right? They're ready to try him as a treason and lock him away for life. Try him under treason and lock him away for life. Try him as a traitor, right? But, so they are okay violating our privacy. But if we violate their privacy, you're a traitor. You're getting locked away for life. So, Edward Snowden is still in somewhere, Russia, somewhere in the world, and at this time of this video, and he's also recently received an award from some agency for you know, being willing to put his own life on the line to reveal the truth, right? To let people know what was going on. And so Edward Snowden Award. Edward Snowden's father disputes accuracy reports, son's intentions. Give him an award. Sam Adams Award. I don't know. So yeah, anyhow, that's it. And so if you go and you look up what was he really revealing, we're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. I'm just looking here to see. I have an article about Snowden. Well, let's just bring it up from here. Top 5 things we've learned. It's right here. The top 5 things we've learned about NSA thanks to Edward Snowden, right? So how much the NSA is monitoring us and everybody else in the world. What did we learn, and what are the top 5 things that have happened as a result of the whistleblowing? Generally speaking, my own impression is that it's kind of like when we were at war with Afghanistan and Iraq. You know, I saw somebody, a picture of someone holding a sign that said, "America's not at war. The Marines are at war. America's at the mall." And that attitude, that sort of attitude that a lot of people seem to have about the Afghanistan and Iraqi wars, it also seems to be the attitude that people have about privacy. Like, people are just too busy with their own lives, right? They like got to work, they got to feed their kids, they got to cook and do the dishes, and like, who really has time to think about these issues, much less get out there and protest and make a difference and get some change done. So really, that's the new opiate of the masses, right? Is just to have people be kind of busy with survival, trying to stay alive, and also consumerism. So, you know, most people, it seems like, are like big deal, you know, but there have been a lot of impacts. That's just on an individual level, it seems to me. But on a larger level, a lot of other countries are pretty pissed off with America for how much we've been gathering information. So if you look in the news, right, fresh leak on U.S. spying, NSA accessed Mexican president's email. So just think about that for a second, right? Like, oh, well, hell yeah, let's just watch the emails of all the other leaders in the world and we'll see what's going on, right? So, and always it's important to look at the source, Spiegel Online. But this article, you know, is all over the place, right? So here's another one. Mexico condemns U.S. over alleged NSA hacking of ex-president's emails, right? The Guardian. And if you search, let's see here, and then here's we'll talk about that one in a second. Here's another one. France's latest U.S. ally angered by NSA snooping. So we're watching what's going on in France. French condemns surveillance by NSA. Like, we're watching everybody in the world. European Parliament joins list of those upset with the NSA, right? And let's see here. And then, you know, like, how much is being monitored? Senator Dianne Feinstein says continue recording calls of everybody, right? NSA call records program. So, you know, basically now, if you have a cell phone, I know this is not a cell phone, it's a phone, but if you have a cell phone, your cell phone broadcasts your location at any given time. And some people even say that FBI has the ability to turn your cell phone on, even when it's off, to be able, it'll still look like it's off, but to be able to listen when your cell phone is on. FBI, listen, cell phone, Fox. This is on Fox News. Cell phone, FBI can listen to you when your phone is turned off. Fox News, FBI can listen on cell phone, right? So this is on Fox News. I don't know how reputable of a reporting service that is, but, right? So trippy stuff. They could know where you are and they can listen to what you're saying if you have your cell phone with you. So if you're a criminal, what you want to take from this, or if you're related to criminals or no criminals, or even just social activists, what you want to take from this video is if you're going to go out and do something which might be a little anti-establishment, revolutionary, even illegal, or criminal, right? I don't condone criminal behavior, but just teaching you the tools. Don't take your cell phone with you because they know, and they access those records to see who was where when. And if they wanted to, they could even listen to whatever you're saying, apparently, even if your phone is off. And they record your calls when you call. Yeah, so that is something that could be or is going on. And again, I say could be or is going on because when we start talking about this, I don't have definitive insight into what is occurring, but I'm just looking at some of the different sources that are out there, and some of it seems pretty crazy, right? Like Continue NSA call records program, right? Database helps connect the dots. Okay, they're recording our calls. They're recording our calls. And they just gather all of this information at the NSA, which is this huge place, you know, and there's some of the NSA in Virginia, I think. And let's see, where is it? In Fort Meade, wherever that is. Yeah, somewhere back east, Virginia. Maryland. There we go. And they're the largest consumer of electricity in the state, in the state of Maryland. Largest consumer in Maryland, largest electricity consumer, because they use so many computers and so many massive supercomputers to do all this stuff. So it's kind of a crazy world, privacy and security. And George Orwell, 1984, who wrote that book and said, "Hey, man, Big Brother's watching you. You're living in, you might be living in a totalitarian state. You might be living in a totalitarian state where Big Brother's watching you." And he predicted that would occur in 1984. Well, he's maybe 2 decades too early because it's really sort of occurring now, the way things are happening now, that Big Brother's watching us. And so I thought I'd end this video, just the introduction to privacy and security, with quotes, and then also with what you should take away from watching all of this. So here are a few quotes from George Orwell's videos. "In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." So these are quotes from the book 1984. "In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." So you'll notice that this is like war is peace, right? This doublespeak is doublespeak that occurs a lot in politics, right? We are going to fight to liberate those people. And if anybody else does something we don't like, we'll go liberate their asses too, right? So, peace through superior firepower, right? Peace through superior firepower. We even have an entire class of nuclear missiles, called peacekeepers. Because, if you've got the biggest gun, who's going to mess with you? We have peace. And so this doublespeak, even the Patriot Act, right? Like, we called this act after 9/11 the Patriot Act, where we took away a lot of Americans' freedoms, which really, in many people's eyes, I think that would be unpatriotic because America's supposed to be the land of the free, right? So the Patriot Act took away a lot of freedoms. So, are you going to disagree with the Patriot Act? You must not be a patriot. So look at how they name things. And they often use this doublespeak. People who are trying to sell you something will give things interesting names. Operation Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, right? Like, oh, great. Yeah, everybody wants freedom. Let's bomb them. Operation Iraqi Freedom. Political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable. These are all from 1984. If you want to picture the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. So this is, I think, just George Orwell's reflection on the fact that humans throughout the history of humanity have a lot of instances of treating each other really awfully, like all those genocides, which we looked at Wikipedia, genocides in history, right? We have a lot of instances of not treating each other well. And so you just need to be mindful of that. And I don't know what you could do about it. Have a little escape plan. Things get too crazy. I'm going to Bora Bora, Fiji, I don't know, some island, New Zealand. Here's another one, a little bit long. "Now I will tell you the answer to my question. It is this: the party seeks power entirely for its own sake. We are not interested in the good of others. We are interested solely in power, pure power. What pure power means you will understand presently. We are different from the oligarchies of the past in that we know what we are doing. All others, even those who resembled ourselves, were cowards and hypocrites. The German Nazis and the Russian communists came very close to us in their methods, but they never had the courage to recognize their own motives. They pretended, perhaps they even believed, that they had seized power unwillingly and for a limited time, and that just around the corner there lay a paradise where human beings would be free and equal. We are not like that. We know that no one ever seizes power with the intention of relinquishing it. Power is not a means, it is an end. One does not establish a dictatorship in order to safeguard a revolution. One makes the revolution in order to establish the dictatorship. The object of persecution is persecution. The object of torture is torture. The object of power is power. Now you begin to understand me. So that's from 1984. Big Brother is watching you. Privacy and security. How much privacy have we already lost? How much are we being monitored? Are we doing it right? Like, what kind of security are we getting in exchange for it? The interplay between privacy and security. I could give you more security, but you're going to have less privacy. I could give you more privacy, but you're going to have less security. That trade-off. National security. Tribes of people wanting to protect themselves from other tribes attacking them, so they need to monitor what other tribes, other people are doing. You know, so where is that line? Where should it be drawn? How much information should you share about yourself? How do you stay safe in this brave new world? This brave new world where it very much appears as if Big Brother is indeed watching us. So these are some of the issues we're going to explore this week in looking at privacy and security.